Hello and welcome to another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. I am your host, Jose, on the mic, and with me as always is the lovely, amazing dancer, Amay. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful this morning, and I'm very excited to be here with Jim and Jenell Maranto.
Awesome
They
kids.
are wonderful.
Absolutely. I've actually had a chance to see Jim dance quite a bit. That guy's no dust on this guy.
He can dance on a circle.
Yeah, he can dance on I saw him dance on a square, actually. I'm going to have to send him that clip. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, at a Scottsdale competition.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I remember that. I was doing the fleck roll, right?
That's the fleck roll.
Yeah, right on that circle.
I remember that too. Yeah.
I remember one of my coaches years ago
yes.
said to me, "You're going to learn to do this step, and you're going to be able to do it on a tabletop." And I took it to heart. I mean, I didn't get on the table, but I drew a little circle, and I always worked on keeping it in that circle. And then when Andrew challenged me that day,
yes.
I was all up for that.
Yeah, he was going to
right
be
there on the
out of money.
logo.
He was going to be out of money real quick.
You were really kind to come out of the circle. I think he was offering $30,000 or something.
Might have been $100,000. I'll be
It was
honest.
a lot of money.
It was a lot of money.
And Jim said,
He had
all
no
right.
idea.
Yeah.
We had practiced for 30 years.
I'm like, it was more money he had in his pocket, I can tell you that.
Then I know Andrew went, nice try, when you
Yeah.
came off the circle. So we have that clip. We're gonna send it.
I have that. I'm
Yeah.
going to have to send that to you.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That was kind of funny. Speaking of which, now you were telling me you've been at this game how long now?
36 years.
36 years.
That's all.
Just 36.
Just 36.
Man, you're just warming up,
I'm warming up. I've got 15 more good ones.
He
I think.
started as a baby.
right?
Yeah.
Came out of the womb with his shoes on.
Actually, in the world now of dance, it's customary for people to start as children, but neither Jenell or I did. We started both as adults, which is unusual for champions to have done. So it's sort of a different history. I mean, I came into it after college, Jenell after college as well.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
A lot of people start as children now. And
That's
that's
true.
almost unheard of that a national champion would be.
Yeah, learning as
Starting
an
that.
adult is very different from learning as a child, but
For sure.
I think it helps us be better teachers in the long run, just because it's not that far in the distance from our learning process,
yeah.
and we remember, every painful moment of learning. So,
Emphasis on painful.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good.
So we can sort of pass on how to get over the frustration, of learning things. Because
Well, I
of
think
that.
we relate to our students and the effort of learning as an adult, something new movements, things that you haven't just put in your subconscious from the age of 5 or 6 years old. So learning new is what our business really is about. We teach predominantly adults in the dance world.
Right.
And I think we didn't think of it as an advantage at the time. but
Yes.
We thought we were behind, but it ended up long term being really an advantage.
Yeah, with children, they don't have life to deal with.
Nope.
Somebody else is
inhibition.
making all the decisions for them.
Yeah,
you
no
you just show up.
inhibition.
Yeah, you
say
show up,
do that, and they do
and they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But an adult, you say do this, and they're like, okay, wait, and did I turn those lights off?
Yeah.
So I leave the oven on.
And they ask why.
Yes.
Like kids don't. They just do it.
That's right.
They want to know
Yeah,
why. So the why is like an incredible, important part of our teaching philosophy. Why we do what we do.
I know. I always like to know why. I feel like it sticks in my brain better. I'm a very inquisitive person. So I was wondering, what are some of the things that you do?
Well, like when I learned initially, no one ever said why. They just said do this, do that, put your hand here, stand this way, and I did that for several years until we met a couple of teachers who really could explain to us exactly why. It made such a difference. Just the one thing that they said was, "Oh, we dance in opposition." Well, I'd never heard of that before. I just knew that I had to stand a certain way and I had to stay in the arm, but I didn't know we had to have weighted opposition through our spines. And when I heard that, it really just changed the whole
You were
world
like,
in terms of water dancing.
why
for
didn't
me.
someone tell me that?
Well, and history. An important part of our learning was history lessons. One of our main coaches and greatest influences was a pupil of the first ballroom champion.
And who was that?
Pewter Eggleton.
Was your coach, or was the first?
Well, he was a pupil of Josephine Bradley, who was basically one of the innovators,
The developers
of
of
the style of dance, which he referred to as the diagonal waltz versus more circular or linear in form. And it really formulates how everything happens. And when you start to know history, who did this step first? Why did they do it? What were the circumstances? You go, well, that makes a whole lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Instead of just the usual, do it this way, and this is how it's done, and okay.
I think it would like really bring life to what you're dancing then.
For sure.
Yeah. In the same way, like if you're reading a book, I'll just give an example, the Bible, and then you go to Rome, and you
got a whole new meaning,
have a
right
new perspective on it, right?
So is that what you mean with?
Well, I think for us, we operate under a paradigm that has been historically accurate, and I remember one of my friends who was a really high level dancer in England, and we used to take lessons from him, and he used to say to me all the time, it'd be better. I love teaching you guys, and we have fun, and we play golf together, and we have a great time. But you should find the oldest teachers you can find to tell you really how it's done.
Pick their brains.
How it's done.
That's sort of what we did.
Well,
Such
like our very first lesson with him, with Pewter Eggleton, usually someone will put on the music and watch you dance for a while, and then they'll sort of analyze what you're doing and tell you what you're doing wrong and what to do, how to fix it or whatever. But the first lesson, he was talking the whole time. The entire first lesson was telling us the history, which was just incredible because it really changed the way we thought about. Everybody says stand, offset, and parallel. Well, he says before they wrote the book, no one knew that. They were standing toe to toe. People didn't know. They just wanted to get together and stand together. And then because they're standing toe to toe, they couldn't move forward. So what do? They had to lean and left to get past each other. So it was just little things like that, as to looking at it from the perspective that somebody was just watching and writing down things. They didn't know what was going on in the dancer's mind, but they saw something and they wrote it down. And that's basically what we're learning from, is what they wrote down. So having something handed down through the years tells you what's between the lines, because if you wrote everything, the book would be so big you wouldn't be able to pick it up, much less would you ever read the whole thing. So it's something that I think does have to be handed down. We learn from our teachers, and hopefully they're giving us good information.
Right, and this is the whole thing about Dance Teachers Academies. We're talking about what also makes a great instructor, communicating information. And so this is great what you're talking about, because every student is different and you have to approach it differently, right? So
well, yeah, we all have our view of how things are done, but you have to adapt to who's listening to you and what their pool of experiences are, because everything goes through that filter. And the more ways you have of saying things, the better luck you have. And again, I go back, it sounds silly, but I was an athlete all through, from when I could walk through college. And I was used to training and really being super focused and just doing things in a repetitive fashion without a lot of thought about why I did it or how. I just did what the coach said. Yeah. But dancing, and I could do that mindlessly, but as an adult I became, 36 years for me. This is a long time of doing one thing, right? All day, every day in the same room, looking out that same window.
Yeah, because you say you have had the same studio for 31 years.
31 years.
Yes. Must be a nice view.
Well, it's usually my car. That changes often.
But something's working great there.
Yeah, no, it's a small space, but we've produced so many great dancers out of that little space.
I know that when I've seen you dance with your students at a competition, I see you right away. Yeah. Because you are moving across the floor. Oh, there's Jim.
There's Jim.
You're a standout. So it surprised me that you said it's a small space.
Well, it is. It is.
Yeah.
I know, and people, I guess I do move a fair amount, but you would never know by looking at the. And maybe it's like I'm a caged animal. I practice it. Now suddenly there's open space.
You're like, whoa, look at all this room.
Your eyes get big, right?
And Jenell, are you always coaching his students as well?
Sometimes I coach his students, not all the time, but often I do. But I know the first time, we were always thinking when we first opened the studio, Well, it's small, but it was long, and we could do a long wall, and then.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think Jim got really good at floor craft because the floor wasn't gigantic. But then when we went to England, we thought, oh well, all the world champions are from England, so there must have great studios over there. So we go over there, and we're in Bill and Bobby Irvin's studio, and it's as small as ours. We're like, I can't believe it. But it doesn't matter. You just need to learn how to use the space. I think it was actually better that we didn't have a giant
Interesting.
studio.
This is so interesting.
He learned how to overturn correctly and underturn whatever was necessary to get around another. Anytime we'd go out to compete, if it was crowded on everybody on one side, Jim would just take off and go somewhere else.
Just go to the other side.
Well, I remember.
I can't tell you how often I see that. I'm like, because I look at hours and hours of dance video, and I'm like, they're all fighting for this one little crumb in this corner, and you got this entire floor that's empty. I'm like, get to the other side.
Well, people, it's funny. When a competitor once said to me, I said, wow, your choreography is so good. Everybody's on one end of the room, and you get your choreography, and you're on the other end of the room. And I was taken aback. I thought, it's floor craft. That's not choreography. But I guess they didn't. They're so used to only doing choreography, they don't manage the space.
Yeah,
but that was an integral part of our training. Literally managing space, managing conditions. In fact, really the definition of a good ballroom dancer is one that manages circumstances, partnership, music, floor conditions, and other people.
And it's so nice to see someone that's a master of that floor craft.
Absolutely.
Like,
this guy can sit there and run a room. I can tell you that. I've watched him for hours. You're another guy I study.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's been studying he says, oh, I'm studying this person. I'm like, that's good. That's a good one to study.
Like I said, I watch a lot of film, but there's certain guys I don't watch, I study. I'm like, okay, this guy.
Well, he's a good one to study.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a good one to study.
Janelle and I had a really great professional competitive career, and when you're done doing that, you sort of go, well, what do I do with this? And I, doing a lot of pro-am didn't come into my way of thinking, because I thought, well, I'm going to teach all these people, all these pros to do what I did, and it turned out they really didn't want to know. They just wanted to beat the next person.
Yes.
I was all sort of
disappointed.
I was like, wow, they don't really want to know. They just want to get to the next placement. So I thought, well, shoot, I'll just teach people who are really wanting to learn, and they're not the most gifted people in the world necessarily,
but they're willing to learn,
hungry to learn.
Yes.
And so I found an outlet for information with educated people who were adults that wanted to learn dancing, and I got a lot of satisfaction out of doing that. It turns out I started doing a heck of a lot of pro-am, and I enjoy it. To this day I still do it, even though I'm sort of semi-retired from pro-am in a way. I don't do that much, but I keep thinking, well, God, I like my people. I like teaching them. I like having conversations with them. And nothing wrong with teaching the pros, but the thirst for knowledge of someone who can't do things easily seems a lot deeper than someone who can do things easily.
Love to look at their face when they get excited.
When the light comes on, it's like, I get that.
Yeah. I like talking to their brains.
Yeah, my little niche right now is wedding couples. And so, and I had 95 wedding couples last year.
Oh my God.
Yes, and it's just so wonderful when you see them. So this is not just the brain getting excited, but then they're getting excited about dancing together. So to be there in that moment as an instructor is, pretty special.
Right.
So you were going to talk about today some lady poise tips. And before I forget, I want to ask about that.
Well, okay. So we originally thought, we didn't realize this was an interview. We thought it was going to be one of the regular video segments that we do for Wei Ning from time to time. So we had planned certain subjects, and one of them was the lady's poise, how she stands, and why she stands that way. So
we're going to get the history behind this.
A little history, yeah.
Good.
Well, because ballroom dancers, in order to get around the room, they have to be able to pass each other and swing past each other. So we stand in such a way that to make that possible. So we're actually always keeping our right side back for several reasons. One, because the lady is angling her back into the man's arm, his right arm, and she's also allowing him always to pass her on her right side. So the passing is a whole other subject. But the poise and balance that we were going to talk about was the main thing, because that's where you start. When you take hold, so I was going to talk about how when we walk up, we want to already have our poise and shape completely done, rather than walking up and then trying to do it
adjust
afterwards, because it's too late at that point.
Okay.
So the man is actually trying to frame what the lady's doing, and he escorts her around the rooms, basically the idea.
Like that.
So she needs to be in a shape that is toned, but not stiff. She needs to be stretched up and angled towards his arm. She needs to have her legs forward, and I was going to go over that a lot, because I think that's something that people either misunderstand or they don't know about it, because they a lot of times beginners are told to bend their knees because they're so stiff in the first place. You feel like you need to tell them something, so you just say bend your knees, right? But there's a way of bending your knees that's correct, and there's a way of doing it that's incorrect. And basically your knees should be angled out in front of you. Your legs should always be in front of you. But a lot of times people want to stick their foot back. When you extend your foot back behind you, it changes your poise, and it changes, you're actually more in the way than you would be if you kept your legs in front of you. Having them in front of you helps you balance while you're moving back. So it's hard to say all that when you're sitting in a chair, but
I thought you did a great job.
I was going to say that's a very technical.
You almost can't picture it, while I'm sitting here. But so that's what we were going to do. We were going to actually try to describe everything and demonstrate it. But we're not going to do that right now.
But I think Jenell makes an excellent point, because one of the motivating factors for her in ballroom dance, and I think we always forget this now because it's dance sport, but it's still a pastime, first of all. It's still based on lead and follow. It's still based on a guy holding a girl and us moving together to music. It's supposed to be something that you can do as naturally as possible. Now, I remember my greatest compliment after coming off the floor one day. I didn't get that many compliments at first. One time
I'm shocked.
I danced, and I remember Pewter Eggleton saying to me, "You looked quite normal today." And I was like, "Okay, I know there's a compliment and a criticism both in the same
there."
But it is the quest to look as natural and normal as possible that we spend a lifetime dedicated to do.
Quite normal.
You look quite normal today. That was pretty good compliment.
With an
I suppose.
accent.
Yeah.
Of course. Oh yeah, terrible English.
It means you didn't look like a bull in the china shop.
Yeah, my usual way.
Awkward,
I remember him saying, "How do I get the Jim out of Jim?"
Yeah.
Well, because I was an athlete, so I'm used to hitting things and putting force into everything I did.
What was your favorite sport?
Hitting things is
Well,
good.
I was a safety in football. And
He's a hitter.
Baseball. So.
Yeah, he's a hitter.
But I was like 65 more pounds than I am now. I mean, I was pretty.
How do I get the
substantial.
Jim out of Jim?
Yeah.
Well, how do you get the bull
It
in the
took
china shop?
20 years to get the Jim out of Jim.
Yeah. And I remember one of our great coaches, Ray Rivers, who's one of the supreme athlete guys who could tell a guy who's an athlete actually how to be a dancer.
Okay.
Right? And he said one time to me, he said, "We're going to make you sensitive." And I about just went white as a sheet, because that was like, sensitive? What? I'm not sensitive. And it turns out, after he said that to me probably 25 years ago, I find myself saying, "You have to be sensitive to the lady's balance." I'm like, "Oh,
God, did I just say that?"
And all those things you don't think you are, you become.
Yeah. But it's funny, you got to make the transition. I'm like,
You do.
Yeah.
You do. But the naturalness, like Jenell, back to that, how she became interested. She danced every kind of dance you can do, including stage performances and Vegas shows, and she did everything, performed with all the greats. And
Wow.
I remember her saying to me that she chose ballroom dancing because she thought, "Well, I can do this when I'm even older,"
Yeah.
and it intrigued her.
That's actually why I switched.
That's why she switched from all those things, beating up the body, and here we are, so many years later, and you can do it still at an incredibly high level. No matter what your age, no matter what your level of fitness, you can still get tremendous satisfaction out of doing it. In fact, I wrote an article about this, how you do not have to be a supreme world-class athlete to dance at a very high level. And that, in fact, is the skill. You don't have to be extraordinary.
Having longevity in a dance career is really quite an amazing thing.
It's true.
For one thing, one of our main teachers, which was Pewter Eggleton, is Pewter Eggleton. We still get him to tell us things.
Is that
Get him
right?
to tell us stories.
You know,
Yeah.
he was in our studio like 2 years ago. He was like 90, or probably 89, 90.
90,
I think he's 91 now, but he's still stood there and taught all day long, never
Wow.
complained about a single thing.
Wow.
But I did notice that most of the people who were highly respected and looked up to were older at the time when we started.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, that's a really good idea. I think I could stop wearing tights and bending over in front of the class now. Wear high heels and a dress.
Wow.
And be sophisticated. It just
It
changed.
was appealing.
Yeah,
Yes.
it just seemed like a really good idea to make that change. So it wasn't easy to make that change, but I was so excited about it and turned on by it that it was actually fun to do it. Even the things that probably were frustrating and hard was actually fun. So learning is fun. So.
It should be. That's why I always say, that we start dancing because it was fun, and we really need to keep that in mind when we're instructing, to keep it fun
Yeah.
as they're
Yep.
learning.
Yeah, and keep it attainable. You know, like I don't consider myself a particularly nice guy, but
Janelle.
He is actually a very nice guy.
Okay,
A lot of
just
people
one
are.
funny little thing. Actually, as a teacher, I'm super nice. Like
Yes,
I'm very
he's extremely
complimentary because I'm sensitive to the fact that, you can do things or you can't do things, and why should I keep asking for the things you can't do yet and let you sort of get better at the things you can? And Jenell is actually really tough, a tough teacher. But
Good cop, bad cop thing?
Oh, no, but she does it, like, okay, she'll be, like, hypercritical. Like, say things that I would never say. I can't believe she said that. And then she laughs. And they go, oh, you just told me I should do anything else other than dance. And I laughed along with you.
That's
And here I
not
am.
true.
It is true. And I
You
say,
don't have
I
the
just
same
say,
delivery, right?
I say, that was so fantastic. Now this time, let's try a little bit of this. And they go, oh, he's so mean. I'm like, Janelle just told you should give up and laugh.
laugh.
And you think she's, but that Janelle is so nice. So I don't know where it comes from. So she does do it.
Janelle, really?
I think I'm just honest, is what it really is.
Brutally honest,
Hey.
apparently.
I don't mean it
Brutally.
brutally, but I look at it and and I see it. And
Like, honey, you really should stop. Take your shoes off, leave them there, go home.
no, I've never said that to anyone. Actually,
Just the other day.
Just the other day, Jim.
How's your golf game?
I might use that. That sounds like a good one.
Dancing
Wow.
doesn't seem to be for you.
This is not a
then
good
she goes,
pastime for you.
And they go, oh, she's so nice.
Well, people always think it's a better lesson when you tell them something like that. No, I'm joking. I'm just kidding.
Halfway.
But then there is some things like that he says. He's from Philly, and I say the same thing, and people just look at me like,
Right, doesn't come
yeah.
off.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like, I'm never gonna do that again.
Well,
I
it's the
can't
same
say
thing. Like if you had an accent, you could say anything you wanted.
That's right.
But we're American. We have American accents.
Yeah.
We have to be really careful what we say.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
come out right when you say it.
It's not quite the same.
No,
quite the same.
it's not. So yeah, we're careful about how we speak.
Alrighty.
So where did you two meet?
Well,
I'll let him tell that story.
okay, I will tell this in a second, but
It's better if you tell.
Janelle's been writing a book about
Yes.
her experiences in dance.
Okay.
So she's got all the stories pretty good in her head. My memory's slightly vague, but I will tell you the story.
It's all them
hate
hits
telling
as a
this story,
safety.
I know he hates the
I
story.
hate
That's
this
why
story.
I prefer him to tell it.
but I will tell it because you've asked. But after I graduated from college, I moved to Arizona, I thought for a short time, to go back to medical school. And I moved into my apartment, and this is a while ago.
Before cell phones.
Before cell
You
phones.
plug your phone into the wall.
Plugged my phone into the wall, and it rang. I'm like, okay. I answered the phone. Hey, and it was an advertising call for a dance studio. and I won a free lesson.
How about that?
How lucky
What do
is
you
that?
know? And they were asking for so and so, but and I said, oh, okay. I'll go in. I didn't know anybody. I mean, knew my grandparents lived in the area, but that's all I knew. So I said, I'll go in, and I thought, I could meet some people. I could meet some girls.
Sure.
Dancing, just young out of college. And I
Lot of leg
walked into the
there.
dance studio, and Jenell, who was an advanced teacher, just happened to take the new person that came in, which was rare at that time.
Yeah, all
the
the
time. And she was
Different
the
departments,
teacher.
right?
all the other teachers were either busy or sick that day.
And she was probably
And-
carrying on, not wanting to do it. And then she took me on. And,
I love this dynamic.
That's how it happened. I just started that way. And it was intriguing to me, outside of she was a really great teacher and pretty and fun and everything. But,
Sure.
But the intrigue when she I wasn't that keen on dancing per se. Like I didn't really want to dance. But when she told me about competition here, I thought like, wow, all I've done my whole life is compete. Mm-hmm. I don't know not competing. Well, here's something I can compete in doing. And it was sort of interesting to do, and that's how it happened.
The next thing you know, 36 years down the road.
36 years later, I'm still going back to school, I thought.
Is this a known story? Do a lot of people know that?
I probably not, because
A lot of people
They will now.
people who know us
who
know
know us.
it.
That's
But
a
the average
thrill.
person
He was
who's
going to be
seen
a
us on
doctor.
video.
Can you believe it?
I heard that.
But I
like,
think to
"What?"
myself, I can't imagine him being a doctor and having to, I don't know.
I'm a doctor of dance now.
Yeah,
Well, there you go.
Dr.
That's
Dance.
right.
PhD in floorcraft.
But I went to a prestigious university, and I'm well educated, and I could basically, I think, pretty much do anything. But dancing, and I have horrific ADD. I have to do 17 things at once. But for some reason, I have maintained interest in dancing. And I think it's the complexity of two bodies trying to get better and more synchronized, and that keeps me
It's
intrigued.
fascinating.
And I use, obviously physics and geometry and everything in my teaching, but I still use the subtle nature, the nuanced nature of how we use our body and feel things. And it has kept me interested. When literally I couldn't keep my mind on anything for 10 minutes. And dancing, I teach, a lot of lessons a day. I used to do 20 lessons a day, and I would be as enthusiastic from one to the end.
Because it's an
Beautiful.
art also, it's physical, but it's an art. It's a physical art. So and with the physics and everything else and the mechanics of it is fascinating how it
So I
works.
guess we're not your prototype dancer couple, but we've found a way to make it work.
I love it.
I love
This has been great
Yep.
to hear
All right,
all
well-
these great stories.
I would love to sit here and continue with the history lesson, to be honest with you, but I got to get you kids out of here. I know you got things to do. Miss Jenell and
Mr. Jim.
excuse me,
Jim,
this thing's been bothering me all day. I just didn't want to do that in
You
front
were
of
Better than
saying
mine.
doctor. You didn't
Doctor-
know whether to call him
Dr.
Dr.
Jim,
Maranto.
yeah, Dr. Maranto, yes. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks.
It's been
Thank
been
you.
fun.
Unexpectedly pleasant.
Yeah, like I said, we just sit around here and chat. Like the only thing's missing are the beers.
Yeah.
The lovely May.
Thank you so much, Jose, and I appreciate you two so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks. So this has been another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. Thank you for watching.